What if the biggest reason you feel stuck in life is not the world holding you back, but the way you silently undervalue yourself? How many times have you brushed off your own achievements thinking they were nothing special, while in reality they were proof of your strength? The truth is, the greatest obstacle to your growth is not external, it's the unnoticed patterns of self-doubt and neglect you allow to control your life. Imagine for a moment that the most powerful tool for a meaningful and fulfilling life is not something you can acquire from the outside. It cannot be bought, earned, or granted by others. It is already within you waiting to be recognized, cultivated, and mastered. This is not mere speculation. It is a truth deeply rooted in the philosophy of Stoicism, a wisdom that has guided countless individuals throughout history to live with purpose, resilience, and inner peace. Stoicism teaches us that a well-lived life is not defined by external validation, wealth, or status. Instead, it is found in the mastery of self through wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It serves as a powerful reminder that no matter the turmoil or uncertainty in the world around us, we possess an unshakable foundation within. Free from illusions beyond fleeting opinions, our true worth is determined by how steadfastly we uphold our principles. This journey is not about mere self-improvement. It is about returning to what has always been within you. It is about aligning your actions with your deepest values and recognizing the strength that has always been yours. If you seek clarity, if you long for freedom from external control, if you are ready to reclaim the power of self-mastery, you are in the right place. Let us walk this path together, exploring the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and learning to value ourselves as we never have before. There is only one request. Do not skip any part of this video. If you are here, you are not like the majority. You are an exception. Now, act like one. Stay present, and let's begin one, accepting less than you deserve. At some point, we have all been guilty of this. Staying in a job that drains us, holding on to relationships that do not uplift us, or abandoning our dreams out of fear we settle. We tell ourselves this is the best we can expect, that this is simply how life is. But why is it fear? Is it comfort, or perhaps a combination of both? Stoicism teaches us that our worth is not dictated by our circumstances. Whether one lives in wealth or in struggle, Stoicism reminds us that what truly defines us is not where we are, but how we choose to respond. While we may not have control over every event in our lives, we always retain power over our perceptions, judgments, and actions. And yet, when we accept less than we deserve, we are surrendering that power. We are allowing external conditions to dictate our self. Worth Stoicism challenges us to question this. It urges us to ask, is this situation in alignment with my values? Am I responding in a way that reflects my true worth? If the answer is no, Stoicism does not leave us with despair. It gives us strength. It reminds us that our perception is ours to shape. Our response is ours to control. And through these, we hold the ability to transform our reality. Our worth is not measured by job titles, financial status, or external recognition. Our worth is defined by the integrity with which we live, the courage with which we act, and the wisdom with which we navigate the world. This is not about blame. It is about empowerment. It is about reclaiming the control that has always been ours. We do not refuse to settle because we are entitled, but because we recognize our inherent value when we face life's challenges. With clarity and resilience, we are not merely surviving, we are living as Stoics, shaping our fate rather than being shaped by it. 2. Dismissing your own achievements. Stoicism, with its deep understanding of human nature, does not advocate for arrogance or self-congratulation. However, it does demand an honest and fair acknowledgement of one's own efforts and virtues. Why? Because recognizing our achievements is not about feeding vanity. It is about acknowledging the discipline, perseverance, and commitment that made them possible. It is about honoring the integrity of our work and the alignment of our actions with our principles. Consider this in Stoicism virtues, such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, form the foundation of a life well lived. Every accomplishment, no matter how small, is the result of embodying these virtues. Perhaps courage led you to pursue an opportunity, wisdom helped you navigate its challenges, or temperance allowed you to stay disciplined when it would have been easier to quit. Yet, when we dismiss our successes as mere luck or something anyone could have done, we do not just undermine the result, we disregard the virtues we cultivated in achieving it. So how do we shift this perspective? How do we learn to acknowledge our accomplishments without falling into arrogance? Stoicism provides the answer. Through balance and honesty, it is about stating, yes, I worked hard for this. Yes, I encountered obstacles and overcame them. Yes, this achievement reflects my effort and my values. It is about giving oneself due recognition, not for the sake of self-importance, but in pursuit of truth. Now reflect on something you have accomplished recently. It does not need to be grand, only meaningful. Ask yourself, what virtues did I embody to make this happen? Did I act with courage, with discipline, with wisdom? Whatever the case, take a moment to acknowledge it, not as an act of self-praise, but as an affirmation of your own character. This is not about seeking validation from others. It is about internalizing the reality that your achievements are the natural result of virtue in action. Practicing this Stoic principle transforms the way we view success. It moves us away from false modesty and toward a deeper appreciation of our own strength and capabilities. In the end, recognizing your achievements is not about ego. It is about acknowledging that you have lived in accordance with the virtues that define you. 3. Always putting others before yourself. It is a familiar scenario. Staying late at work to assist a colleague, skipping your morning exercise to prepare breakfast for your family, or putting your own aspirations on hold to support someone else. It often feels noble, selfless, perhaps even heroic. But there is a paradox. Constantly prioritizing others at the expense of your own well-being does not lead to greater service. It leads to exhaustion, resentment, and ultimately a loss of self. It is like trying to pour from an empty vessel. Eventually, there's nothing left to give. Stoicism does not advocate detachment or selfishness. On the contrary, it emphasizes virtue and the betterment of society. However, it also teaches the fundamental importance of self-care. Why? Because caring for oneself is not an act of selfishness. It is a necessity. It is the foundation that allows us to care for others effectively, to serve others in a meaningful way. One must first be in a stable and healthy state, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Stoicism provides a practical framework for understanding this balance through the dichotomy of control. Our thoughts, beliefs, and actions are within our control. Our well-being is within our control. However, the well-being of others, no matter how much we care, is not something we can fully dictate. What we can control is how well prepared we are to support those around us. And that preparation begins with self-care. Consider this. When you are well-rested, strong, and at peace, you become more patient, more understanding, and more present for those who rely on you. You offer guidance not from a place of exhaustion, but from clarity. You give not from depletion, but from abundance. This is not simply about maintaining physical health. It is about developing resilience, the ability to remain steady in the face of life's demands, to extend wisdom, compassion, without sacrificing yourself in the process. How does one strike this balance? How do we ensure that, in helping others, we do not neglect ourselves? First, recognize that self-care is not indulgence. It is responsibility. Take time to restore your energy, whether through exercise, meditation, reading, or moments of solitude. Second, establish boundaries. There is strength in knowing when to say no, when to step back, and when to prioritize your own well-being. Third approach, self-care not as an escape, but as an obligation to yourself and to those who depend on you. The best version of yourself will always be of greater service than a diminished one. Now reflect, what is one action you can take this week to prioritize your well-being? Perhaps it is committing to a daily walk, setting time aside for a personal interest, or creating limits around your work hours, whatever it may be. Remember that this practice is not just for your own benefit. It is a way to ensure that when you do show up for others, you do so with strength, clarity, and purpose. 4. Struggling to accept compliments. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of viewing ourselves with objectivity. This means recognizing our strengths with the same clarity as we recognize areas for growth. It is about understanding our value, not through the lens of arrogance, but with a sense of balance and fairness. Yet many struggle with accepting compliments. Why often? It is because we see ourselves through a distorted lens, focusing too much on our imperfections. Some have been conditioned to believe that acknowledging strengths equates to arrogance, but Stoicism offers a different perspective. Humility does not mean denying our strengths. It means recognizing them in an honest and grounded way. It is about seeing ourselves as we truly are, without the exaggeration of ego or the limitations of self-doubt. Stoicism teaches that acknowledging our virtues does not diminish us. Rather, it strengthens our understanding of ourselves. Accepting a compliment with grace is not an act of vanity. It is an act of self-awareness. It allows us to see the virtues we have cultivated, the effort we have invested, and the impact we have had on others. When someone offers a genuine compliment, they are acknowledging something real within us. To dismiss their words is to reject an opportunity for self-recognition and growth. How can we become better at accepting compliments? First, shift your perspective when someone praises you. View it as a reflection of your virtues and actions. Second, resist the urge to minimize or deflect. Instead, take a moment to consider the truth in their words. Third practice, a simple and sincere response. Say, "Thank you," without justification or self-deprecation. Gratitude does not inflate the ego. It reinforces self-respect. Stoicism encourages us to use these moments as opportunities for reflection. Ask yourself, what did I do to earn this recognition? How does it reflect my values and efforts? This is not about seeking validation. It is about acknowledging the character and discipline that have shaped your actions. Understanding and accepting our strengths with humility and clarity is not a sign of arrogance. It is a step towards self-mastery. 5. Fear of making decisions. There are moments when we stand at a crossroads faced with a choice, perhaps even a simple one. Yet we find ourselves unable to decide. This hesitation, this fear of making the wrong choice, is more than mere indecision. It reflects a deeper issue, a lack of self-trust. It is as if we are standing at the edge of a diving board looking down at the water below, knowing we need to jump but unable to take that first step. Stoicism offers clarity. In this fog of hesitation, it teaches us that wise decision-making is not about predicting outcomes, but about grounding our choices in reason and virtue. While we cannot control the results of our decisions, we have full control over the process of making them. A decision made with integrity, aligned with our values, and guided by wisdom remains the right decision, regardless of the outcome. Stoicism urges us to accept whatever follows as part of the natural course of life. Why do we fear making decisions? Often, it is the fear of making the wrong choice, the worry that a misstep will lead to failure or regret. But Stoicism challenges this mindset. In the Stoic view, mistakes and failures are not the enemy, they are lessons. Each outcome, whether expected or not, is an opportunity for growth. There is no failure, only learning. By shifting our perspective, we free ourselves from the paralysis of indecision and gain the confidence to act with purpose. How do we cultivate self-trust? First, embrace wisdom and reason before making a decision. Take a step back and ask, does this choice align with my values? Am I acting with integrity? Second, accept that you cannot control everything. The future is uncertain, but by ensuring that your decisions are made with intention and clarity, you can trust that you have done your part. Third, learn from every outcome. Each decision, whether it brings success or challenge, carries valuable insight. Reflect on what worked, what did not, and how you can apply these lessons moving forward. This practice of reflection strengthens self-trust. It reinforces the understanding that you are capable of navigating the uncertainties of life, making choices that reflect your principles, and growing from every experience. True confidence does not come from always being right. It comes from knowing that whatever happens, you will learn, adapt, and move forward with wisdom. 6. Being too critical of yourself. Stoicism teaches the importance of discernment, understanding where to direct our thoughts and energy. It warns us against the habit of dwelling on our flaws and failures, of berating ourselves for every perceived mistake. This is like trying to navigate a ship while ignoring the forces of wind and tide, focusing on the wrong things while losing sight of the bigger picture. The pursuit of perfection is an illusion, a mirage that can never be reached. Why do we fall into the trap of excessive self-criticism? Often, it is because we hold ourselves to impossible standards once. We would never impose on others. We forget that to be human is to make mistakes, to be flawed, and most importantly, to have the capacity for growth. The Stoic perspective. Self-compassion and progress over perfection. From a Stoic viewpoint, self-compassion is not about making excuses or indulging in self-pity. It is about treating ourselves with the same fairness and understanding that we would offer a friend. It is recognizing that setbacks do not define our character. They are simply a natural part of life. When we stumble, the Stoic response is not self-condemnation, but self-examination. What can I learn from this? How can I grow embracing progress over perfection? Every effort, every attempt, whether successful or not, is a step forward. The goal is not to attain perfection, but to move with intention, to improve steadily over time. Progress, not perfection, is the focus. This does not mean accepting mediocrity or neglecting growth. Quite the opposite. It means pursuing excellence while understanding that true growth is often uneven, full of challenges, and inherently imperfect. The path to wisdom is not one of flawless execution, but of steady refinement, learning from mistakes, adapting with resilience, and striving for virtue. This is the Stoic way. 7. Constantly comparing yourself to others. Why is it so easy to fall into the trap of comparison? Part of the reason lies in human nature. We have an innate tendency to measure our value and achievements against those of the people around us. But in the modern world, especially in the age of social media, this inclination is intensified beyond measure. We are constantly exposed to carefully curated glimpses of others' lives, seeing only their triumphs while being unaware of their struggles. This distorted perception leads us to question the significance of our own journey, making us feel as though we are falling behind. The Stoic perspective: focus on your own path. Stoicism provides a powerful antidote to this mindset. Rather than seeking validation through comparison, it urges us to cultivate self-awareness and develop gratitude for our own experiences. Instead of measuring ourselves against external benchmarks, Stoicism teaches us to turn inward toward our own growth, virtues, and progress. This philosophy does not advocate detachment from others, nor does it encourage indifference. Rather, it shifts our perspective from envy to admiration, from comparison to inspiration. How can we apply Stoic principles to overcome comparison? First, practice mindfulness. Be aware when you begin comparing your struggles to someone else's carefully presented successes. Recognize that what you see is not the full picture. Second, focus on what is within your control, your efforts, your mindset, and your commitment to virtue. These are what truly shape your journey, not how you measure up to others. Third, cultivate gratitude. Acknowledge the challenges and experiences that have shaped your path and appreciate them for what they have taught you. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reinforcing the value of our own progress. This is not about settling or abandoning ambition. It is about striving for excellence from a place of self-respect rather than inadequacy. The only person you should seek to surpass is the person you were yesterday. True fulfillment comes not from outpacing others, but from walking your own path with purpose and integrity. 8. Not investing in yourself. How often do we delay the things that contribute to our growth? That, of course, we wanted to take the hobby we intended to start, even the self-care routine we know we need. Many of us have been guilty of this, and the reason is rarely a lack of time or resources. More often, it stems from something deeper. a failure to recognize our own value. The Stoic perspective, self-improvement as self-respect. Stoicism, with its profound understanding of human nature, teaches us that self-improvement is not merely an activity, it is an act of self-respect. Seneca compared life to a garden. Just as a garden requires regular care to flourish, so too does the mind and soul require cultivation. To neglect our personal growth is to neglect ourselves without investment. Both will stagnate. Why do we hesitate to invest in ourselves? Sometimes we are drawn to immediate gratification, choosing short-term pleasures over long-term fulfillment. Other times, the hesitation is rooted in self-doubt, the belief that we are not worth the effort. How to start investing in yourself first. Shift your mindset. See self-improvement not as an option, but as an essential part of living with purpose. Second, make small, consistent investments. It does not require a dramatic overhaul. Start with reading about something that interests you, setting aside time for quiet reflection, or engaging in a hobby that brings fulfillment. Third, engaging self-reflection. Regularly evaluate your strengths, areas for growth, and the alignment between your actions and your values. Finally, embrace lifelong learning. Stoicism reminds us that wisdom is not a destination, but a journey, one that requires continual effort. Personal growth is not an obligation, it is an opportunity, a chance to explore, to refine, and to cultivate the virtues that define who we are. To invest in yourself is to honor your potential, and that is the foundation of a life well lived. 9. Seeking external validation. Why do we so often seek validation from others? At its core, this need is often rooted in insecurity, a deep fear that we are not enough, as we are in a world that constantly tells us who we should be, what we should achieve, and what we should possess. It is easy to lose sight of our own path. But Stoicism calls us to turn inward. True peace and fulfillment do not come from the fleeting approval of others. They come from the certainty that we have lived in alignment with our values, independent of external recognition. Breaking free from external validation. First, develop self-awareness. Ask yourself, am I pursuing this goal because it aligns with my values or because I seek approval? Second, cultivate self-sufficiency. This does not mean withdrawing from others, but finding fulfillment within yourself rather than depending on external validation. Third, redefine success. Stoicism teaches that success is not measured by status or external rewards, but by the extent to which we live according to our values. It is found in the pursuit of wisdom, courage, and integrity. From a Stoic perspective, success is not about what we accumulate, but about the person we become. To free ourselves from the need for external validation is to reclaim our autonomy. It is to choose a life that is guided by inner virtue rather than by the opinions of others. 10. Stay in negative environments. It is like being lost in a dense forest, where the air is heavy, the path uncertain, and each step forward feels like a struggle. Whether it is a toxic workplace that drains our energy or personal relationships that make us feel undervalued, the decision to stay often comes from a deeper belief that we do not deserve better. This is where Stoicism offers both clarity and direction. What Stoicism teaches about negative environments. The Stoics recognize that our environment significantly impacts our ability to live virtuously and find contentment. However, they also emphasize personal responsibility, the need to shape our surroundings wisely, and choose our associations with intention. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that inner peace is not determined by external circumstances, but by how we respond to them. Why do we tolerate negative environments? Many remain in harmful situations because they underestimate their capacity for change, fear the unknown, or cling to what is familiar. Others doubt their worth, believing they are undeserving of something better. But Stoicism challenges these fears. It calls on us to recognize our inherent value and the control we have over our own choices and attitudes. It urges us to question the belief that we are trapped and reminds us that more often than not, we have the ability to change our circumstances, or at the very least, our perception of them, how to navigate and transform negative environments. First, Cultivate inner resilience and autonomy. Marcus Aurelius referred to this as the inner citadel, a strong, stable core that remains grounded in virtue regardless of external turmoil. Second, live in accordance with nature. Seek harmony within yourself and your surroundings. If a situation is toxic and misaligned with your values, recognize your right to walk away. Third, set boundaries. If leaving is not immediately possible, define what you will and will not tolerate. Finally, actively seek positive influences. Surround yourself with people, habits, and activities that contribute to your growth, well-being, and peace of mind. You are worthy of respect, kindness, and a life that aligns with your values. To remain in a negative environment when an alternative exists is to deny yourself that truth. Choose wisely. 11. Letting fear stop you from pursuing your dreams. Why does fear hold such power over us? More often than not, it is because we focus on what we might lose rather than what we might gain. The mind creates vivid images of failure. What if we fail? What if we waste our time? What if others judge us? These thoughts paralyze us before we even begin. Stoicism acknowledges these fears, but challenges us to shift our perspective. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" we must ask, "What do I stand to gain when weighed against the potential for growth, fulfillment, and the realization of our dreams?" Fear begins to lose its grip. The Stoic approach to overcoming fear. First, practice premeditatio malorum, the Stoic exercise of contemplating worst-case scenarios. The goal is not to dwell on them, but to diminish their power. By considering potential hardships and realizing that we can endure them, we see that fear is often an illusion magnified by uncertainty. Second, embrace amor fati, the love of fate. This is the mindset of accepting whatever life brings, not with resignation, but with enthusiasm. Success, failure, joy, and disappointment are all part of the human experience. When we welcome them all as necessary elements of our journey, fear no longer dictates our actions. Finally, align your pursuits with your virtues. Stoicism teaches that our worth is not measured by external achievements, but by our commitment to living virtuously, by the integrity, diligence, and courage with which we pursue our goals. The fear of failure is not just an obstacle to success, it is an obstacle to living fully. The pursuit of one's dreams is not about guarantees, but about embracing the journey with wisdom and resilience. Only by moving forward despite fear do we discover what we are truly capable of. 12. Forgetting that your worth comes from within. Why do we so often forget this fundamental Stoic principle? One reason is our natural desire for connection and validation while seeking recognition from others is a common human instinct. When left unchecked, it can lead us to base our self-worth on external approval or material success. The Stoic understanding of worth, Epictetus reminds us that true freedom is not found in fulfilling every desire, but in freeing ourselves from them. This wisdom applies profoundly to how we define our worth. Contentment does not come from external validation, but from recognizing and embracing our intrinsic value. Our worth is not determined by titles, wealth, or achievements. It is measured by the way we live, by our commitment to virtue, wisdom, and integrity. How to cultivate an unshakable sense of worth. First, practice self-reflection, turn your focus inward, and acknowledge the virtues, efforts, and resilience that shape your character. Second, detach from external validation. Your worth is not dictated by the opinions of others or by fleeting successes. Third, live in alignment with your values. When you act with integrity, courage, and kindness, your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because of external recognition, but because you are living in accordance with what truly matters. Your worth is constant, unshaken by circumstance. When you fully embrace this, you free yourself from the endless pursuit of validation and begin to live with true inner strength. 13. Feeling like you don't deserve happiness. This belief can arise from many sources: past traumas, societal conditioning, or personal failures. We compare our lives to those of others, seeing only Their moments of triumph while being intimately aware of our own struggles. This fuels the illusion that happiness is something to be earned, as though it is reserved only for those deemed worthy. The Stoic perspective on happiness is not a reward, it is a way of living. Stoicism teaches us that fulfillment is not something granted by external forces, but something cultivated through our daily choices. True joy is found not in wealth, status, or validation, but in the pursuit of virtue, in living with wisdom, integrity, and purpose. How to embrace happiness the Stoic way. First, challenge the belief that happiness is conditional. It is not dependent on success, perfection, or external recognition. It is found in living according to one's values and appreciating the present moment. Second, cultivate gratitude instead of focusing on what is missing. Recognize what is already present in your life. Third, foster meaningful relationships. Happiness is not meant to be pursued in isolation by giving and receiving support. We affirm our worthiness of joy. Final words, as we apply the wisdom of Stoicism to our lives, let us remember that we are the creators of our own happiness. You are the architect of your own destiny, the sculptor of your own fulfillment, the master of your own worth. The path ahead will have its challenges, but it is also filled with opportunities for growth, joy, and resilience. Now, take action, live with courage, love deeply, seek the joy that is already within you. If this message resonates with you, share it with others. The wisdom of Stoicism is meant to be lived and shared. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and continue to grow.